Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome to the Techstars London 2020 webinar. Just to talk you through what we're going to talk about today, a little bit on what we expect at accelerators, what we look for, the investment deal, a little bit about the application process, some dates, and also some tips to help you have the best possible chance of joining us at Techstars London later this year. My name is Eamon Carey. I'm the Managing Director of the program. I've been a founder 3 times, 2 of which worked out okay, 1 of which less so. But we can talk more about that at a later stage. I'm an active angel investor both through Techstars and others in over 50 companies across Europe, the US, Asia, and into Africa. I've been involved in Techstars since 2013 as a mentor, as an entrepreneur in residence, and then became managing director for one of our programs in New York in 2016. I also run one of the world's most active VC Slack groups for angel investors and VCs around the world, and a deal flow email that goes out to over 800 VCs and angels globally. And I'm also a karaoke addict. So if you do end up joining us on the program, just be prepared for that. For those of you who don't know Techstars, Techstars was founded in 2006 as the worldwide network that helps entrepreneurs succeed. And over the last 14 years, we have held firmly to the belief that entrepreneurs can change the world. And so we work with startups, with corporations, and with communities to help them do exactly that. And we want to do it at every stage of a company's journey, from inspiration right the way through to IPO. And so, if you look at events like Startup Weekend and Startup Week, it's all about supporting the entrepreneurial ecosystem in cities around the world, engaging with people who have ideas and who want to connect with like minded folks to create businesses and create teams, or whether it's just informing people about what's going on via Startup Digest. Really, at that inspiration stage, we're active in communities. We run over 1,000 startup weekends around the world every year in well over 100 countries. We also run accelerator programs, now over 50 of them around the world, where over a 3 months program, we give companies access to incredible hands-on mentorship and incredible investors and partners and other people who can help their business grow and scale. We support them with up to $120,000 in funding as well, and we'll talk a lot more about that today. And also, Techstars is not just an accelerator program, it's for life. We offer lots and lots of ongoing support, events, and more, which I'll talk about in the rest of this presentation. So really what we're here to talk about today is the mentorship-driven accelerator programs that we run. So every year we choose over 500 early stage companies to join one of the 3 month programs that we run, investing up to $120,000, the deal for which I will explain a little bit later on, and also providing really hands-on mentorship and access to our network for life. So just to tell you a little bit about what we've done to date, we've run over 200 accelerator programs around the world. The companies that have gone through, over 2,000 companies, have gone on to raise over $9 billion in funding. There's a portfolio market cap now of over $27 billion, and we're now the #1 investor by volume globally as per Crunchbase. We'll invest in 500 companies this year across our 50 accelerators. There are over 5,000 mentors and thousands of 5,000 founders, I should say, and tens of thousands of others in the Techstars network across these 2,000 plus portfolio companies. The other activities that we run are in Startup Weekend and wider ecosystem development and much more. And of those companies, 86% are active or have been acquired. So well over 200 companies that have gone through Techstars programs have either IPO'd or been acquired by larger companies. So pretty good track record in that regard. We also partner with large corporates, so over 100 big companies that want to work with startups, that want to engage with them, that want to learn from them, and in many cases want to become your customers, your clients, potential distribution channels for you, and much, much more. So with people like AWS, they're coming in providing technical support, cloud credits for companies, and lots of access to their network. People like Barclays, we run a fintech accelerator with them here in London and also in New York, focused on supporting 20 great fintech companies through their programs every single year. So lots and lots of big folks who can be customers of yours, who can be great distribution channels, and also great supports in terms of the knowledge and networks that they bring to the table. And this is just a graphical analysis of the size of the network that we now operate. So each of these dots represents somewhere where we've run either an accelerator program, a startup weekend, or a startup week globally. And one of the really interesting things is through this network, If you think about it, with these 2,000 companies we've invested in, with these ecosystem leaders who are running startup weekends and other events around the world, if you want to expand your business into the Japanese market, or if you're going on a business trip to Brazil and want to know business etiquette in those markets, there will be companies in the portfolio, and there will be people in the Techstars network that will be available to tell you that, will be available to help you and support you in your endeavors. And since we've been investing in companies since 2007 onwards, those 2,000 portfolio companies, or 2,000 plus portfolio companies, have a lot of stories and a lot of knowledge to share, and that wider network that sits around it is hugely valuable when it comes to kind of interacting and sharing knowledge on expansion, on marketing, on growth, and much more besides. And in many cases, they've been in your shoes in the not too distant past, so they're very happy to support and spend time with companies and with founders. So with accelerator programs, this is the Techstars office here in London, where you'll be joining us if you come onto the program this year. Each program selects 10 companies. So we have applications which are open now. There will be lots and lots of those. We'll conduct lots of interviews and narrow the field down and down and down until we get to the 10 companies that we select for the program. Over a 3-month period, they'll work out of our office. They'll meet lots of mentors, lots of partners, lots of investors, and really try and cram 2 years worth of work into 13 weeks. So really, the way that 3 months is broken down is the first month is all about mentor engagement. So meeting over 100 mentors, and these are founders and entrepreneurs and subject matter experts, executives, and lots of other people, for effectively like speed dating. So you meet 10 of them every day for 15 minutes each over a 10-day period. So meet lots of people who can help you with intros, who can help you with advice, with guidance, and much more. You take all of that and you execute on it, and you grow your business, and you start to do deals, and much more in the second month. And then the third month is a similar process of meeting lots of VCs, lots of angels, and lots of people who are going to be able to potentially get involved in the next stages of your company and support you with capital and expertise and advice and guidance, and much more. And the program then culminates in a demo day, where again you get to get in front of an audience of great investors and great partners, and other people who are enthusiastic to learn more about what you're doing and hopefully get involved in supporting you as well. So, whilst there's no such thing as a typical week on a program, these are some of the things that you can expect to see pretty much every week during that 13-week period. So, we're constantly bringing in kind of mentors and experts. We're running lots of workshops where people will talk about various different subjects, and then run office hours with each of the companies afterwards. So, lots of kind of engagement with different people across multiple different topics, lots of one on one. So, I spend at least an hour every week with each company in a kind of one on one session with the founders, digging in on the highs, the lows, the asks, the challenges, the big questions that they have. We hold all hands every week, where people get together and share again their highs, their lows, some of the KPIs, some of the things that are working, and some of the things that aren't. And the kind of support network that forms during the course of the program is incredibly powerful in that regard. We have founder stories, so serial entrepreneurs, alumni companies who will come in and tell you about their journey. And so this is, everything from people who founded multi-billion-dollar companies right the way through to, people who are at kind of Series A or Series B stage, and who remember what it's like to be in an accelerator program or at a very early stage in their business pretty acutely. We do lots of pitch practice, and making sure that you're comfortable with the kind of storylines and narratives that you're telling, whether it be to investors or to customers. Lots of investor meetings and lunches and networking kind of opportunities. And as I say, lots of workshops, content, and presentations on an ongoing basis. I think one of the key things about Techstars is this kind of the mentorship driven nature of what we do. So Mitch from DigitalOcean, who went through our Boulder Accelerator, and who has now been part of building one of the biggest cloud services companies in the world, says that mentorship is one of the biggest takeaways from the Techstars experience. It's important to learn from those who've been there and done that, and it's brilliant that the DigitalOcean folks are now back in doing founder stories, mentoring on Techstars, supporting us as a partner, and supporting the portfolio companies. I was a mentor for many years, and one of the reasons I did it was when I was starting my first company, mentorship as a concept didn't really exist. It's certainly not back in Dublin. And so having, some people that you could call on and get a little bit of advice and guidance from was absolutely invaluable for me. And being able to pay that forward to the next generation of entrepreneurs is something that I feel very privileged to be able to do. And I know something that our mentors are extremely passionate about as well. And when you combine their passion with the answers and the advice and the guidance that they can give to you, I think it produces a pretty heady cocktail and some incredible outcomes that we've seen over the years. So just to give you a little bit of a picture of kind of some of what the program looks like, we kick things off with a retreat. So these are photographs from the 2019 program. This is the beach going from Sheringham to Cromer in Norfolk. So we took the companies away for a weekend before the program started. So we all went and stayed in a hostel. We went out and had dinner together. We went on this hike along the beach together and hung out for 2 days, really kind of starting to get to know one another and starting to build relationships with one another, because I think not only do you meet this great group of mentors and advisors and partners and other people, but actually the 9 other companies, the 9 other CEOs and founding teams of the other companies become friends for life and become an incredible peer group for you to engage with. And we've seen that over many years. I talked to a guy when I was in Ukraine last year who went through Techstars Boston in 2013, and that group of founders still gets together on Skype once a month and gets together in person once a year. And they've been through births, marriages, deaths, divorces, acquisitions, funding rounds, liquidations, the whole thing. So really building these relationships early on and building relationships within the batch and the other 9 companies is something that's really crucial. Then this is what Mentor Madness looks like. This is the auditorium in our building in Shoreditch. So as you can see, each of the tables here is a mentor, and then we've got some companies sitting with each one. So you spend about 15 minutes with each mentor, tell them a little bit about who you are, what you're doing, what you're hoping to achieve through Techstars. We'll tell you a little bit about who they are, so you've been able to do some research on them, and then dig in, ask questions, get advice, get feedback, get guidance, get introduction offers, and much more. This is Gabby Kahane, one of the amazing mentors who also comes in and does a workshop on branding and positioning. So lots and lots of these workshops in our office, where again they'll come in, present for an hour, do a couple of hours of office hours with companies afterwards to kind of really drill in on some of the topics or some of the areas that are most relevant for those businesses. Tom from Monzo came in and did one of our founder stories, so talking about his journey and how he's taken Monzo to being a multi-billion-dollar company, and very generously gave hours of his time to sit with the founders afterwards to have a chat with them about some of the goods, bads, ups and downs that he's experienced along the way. And so, this is the level of kind of I suppose altruism that a lot of the founders in the ecosystem feel, and the feeling that they have about giving back to the next generation of founders. So these types of interactions, these types of conversations are something that's absolutely invaluable. And this is the group of people. These were the companies from Techstars London 2019. We had folks from Nigeria and Slovenia. We had all across the UK, right away over to the US, across a wide range of sectors, everything from drones to direct to consumer and all points in between. And this is kind of what things focus in on. So this is Tomasz from Kenko, part of Techstars London 2018, pitching on demo day. So this was the demo day that we hosted at the Royal Institution, where he got up in front of this audience of VCs, investors, partners, kind of ecosystem players to talk about their business, what they'd achieved, what they were hoping to do in the future, and really kind of try and get involved and engage with that community and get as much interest from the investors in the room as is humanly possible. So just to dig in a little bit on how we helped one or two specific companies. So Anything World is a company that uses machine learning to make dumb objects smart. So it's a B2B company, works with people in the games, creative industries, and more, and effectively allows you to apply real world behaviors to 3D objects, and then use those within games, applications, AR, and VR. So Gordon and Seb were the two founders, came onto the program had already built a prototype. We're working with a couple of partners. We were able to connect them to Warner Music, Instagram, and many others who were keen to work with them, and in one case invest in them. Connected them with lots and lots of angels, supported them hiring three machine learning engineers, and generally kind of helped them kind of refine the proposition and the business model. And exciting now to see them get ready to launch the full beta version of their product. Likewise, Banjo Robinson is a direct-to-consumer company, so it's a globe-trotting cat that writes personalized letters to help children learn how to read and write. With Kate, we were able to help with hiring support around bringing on a COO and a CMO and others. Built connections that helped her get on the main stage at Web Summit. Got in front of Collaborative Fund out of New York and Sesame Street's Ventures arm to raise their capital, and also been able to support with some of their US expansion plans over the last little while. So just a snapshot of two of the different companies that we invested in and some of the different areas that we've been able to help. But this just goes to show you kind of the range of companies that we worked with the last time around. So from the two companies that I've described to Vitru Health, which is doing using computer vision for musculoskeletal health analysis and gait analysis, so working with physios and clinicians to analyze your movement and support kind of their diagnoses and treatment plans, right the way through to Seize.ai, which is again a computer vision company that's allowing drones to operate beyond visual line of sight. So lots of heavy computer vision, machine learning, and technology in there, working in the oil and gas and construction industry. So really broad range. We are genuinely sector agnostic. We've had everything from B2B to B2C to drones to digital insights and much more besides. So a very broad range of companies and a very broad church, I would say, at Techstars London. And doing the program, I think it's important to say is just kind of phase one of companies' relationships with Techstars. So really your demo day, your program is just the beginning of that. We support to a massive extent over that 3 month period, but I still have very, very regular conversations on WhatsApp, on email, and on Slack with companies that went through, Techstars London 2018 and 2019, or some of the Techstars programs that I ran in New York as well. You get access to our internal social networks, private forums, and various different tools that allow you to access different people within the network, find information about different investors that have invested in companies in the network, and much more. We also run pretty regular biz dev and investor days, recently in Europe and across the US, where we bring in lots of our corporate partners and the wider corporate and business community, as well as investors from around the world, for curated kind of one-on-one meetings with our portfolio companies. And we run lots of monthly alumni events in cities around the world. So, monthly kind of networking events in London, in Berlin, in LA, in New York, in Boulder, and lots of different places. So as you travel around, lots of opportunities to interact with other Techstars founders, alumni, and people from around the network. Just a couple of notes on kind of London and why London might be of interest to some companies. So, I mean, first of all, London has the most active VC ecosystem in Europe, and I would say that stretches back to the angel ecosystem as well. So with the SEIS and EIS tax incentive schemes that exist in the UK, the level of angel activity is substantial and significant, and increasing, I would say, as well. And if you look at London combined with Oxford and Cambridge, that accounts for a substantial amount of the seed, well, pre-seed right the way through to the growth stage investments across the European ecosystem. I think the other thing is talent, and this comes on kind of two axes. So I think if you look at great machine learning talent coming out of universities, you've got places obviously like Cambridge and UCL and University of Edinburgh. If you're looking at incredible business talent coming out, then LSE, University of Oxford, Manchester Uni. There are great universities producing graduates across every sector, from biotech with Imperial and beyond. And not only that, I think one of the other interesting things about London now is there is a substantial number of people who have worked for massive companies, whether it be, Love Film or TransferWise or Deliveroo or Revolut or others who have experienced what it's like to be part of a company that becomes a unicorn, who've experienced what it's like to be part of a company that is going through the kind of blitz scaling process, and so who know what it's like to have that experience. I think until comparatively recently, most people who had that experience were on the West Coast in the US, whereas now I think there's a huge amount of talent in companies around London and around the UK that have that experience and that are, in some cases angel investors, in some cases advisors and mentors, and in some cases potential teammates or colleagues or co-founders of businesses that you can tap into. So a huge kind of pool of talent, and still, relatively easy to access. Other cities in Europe, we see an increasing number of companies where, their tech team, their engineering team will be in Kiev or Minsk or in Tallinn, and then their sales and operation team or some of their executive team will be in London. And so they manage kind of teams remotely, and they fly to and fro. And that type of kind of arbitrage is really interesting to watch develop, because in many cases those companies end up raising seed rounds at London prices and raising London amounts, but then the salary payments that they're making in some cases are substantially lower, and so they can buy themselves a little bit more runway that way. I think the other interesting thing about London is, particularly maybe for B2B companies, but equally applicable for some B2C, is the sheer volume of partners that you can tap into in a relatively small city. So if you want to talk to people in the oil and gas industry, well, you've got Shell and BP in London. If you want to talk to retail companies, well, you've got Sainsbury's and Tesco's and Ocado and even Amazon have a substantial presence now in London. The banks, well, obviously most of the major global banks are in London. Likewise with insurance companies. In the media and marketing space, you've got pretty much every major media budget for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa is still controlled out of London. Massive CPG companies like Diageo, AB InBev, Unilever, and many others. And so one of the really interesting things is that you can, go from having a meeting with the financial industry in Canary Wharf or in the city of London to being in the heart of the, global marketing and advertising industry in 15 minutes on the tube. You can probably go another 5 minutes on the tube and be at the heart of the, kind of international fashion industry. And without going very much further, you're starting to kind of get into hedge funds or get down into some of the bigger telco operators and others. So there's a real density of massive corporates who have headquarters in London, and in many cases who are actively seeking ways to engage and interact with startups. So how do you get involved if you've gotten to this part of the video and you're interested in coming on board and joining and applying for Techstars London in 2020 or beyond? We've got a pretty simple investment deal and process that I'll talk you through. So effectively, to join the program, we ask companies for 6% of the common stock in their company as effectively a fee for joining the network. We give you a $20,000 stipend to help cover the cost of living while you're going through the program. And because all of us who are doing my job as MD have been in your shoes before as founders, 6% is an emotional amount of equity to consider giving to someone else. We think of it in terms of adding an incredibly well networked co-founder into your business at whatever stage. But we also wanted to put in place an equity back guarantee to de-risk it for you. So if you go through the program and you feel like, we haven't maintained our promises, you haven't gotten the best experience, you haven't gotten great connections, well, then you can ask for some or all of that equity back, and we'll have that conversation and give it back to you. So we wanted to make it easy for companies to be able to come and work with us. The other thing I would say for people who are considering this is definitely make sure you speak to some alumni companies. It's pretty easy to find companies that have gone through Techstars London or even some of the programs that I've run elsewhere in the past. So do your due diligence on us. We'll certainly do it on you. Alongside the 6%, then there is an optional $100,000 convertible note. So it's offered to everyone at the start of the program. It's up to you whether you take it or not. In some cases, it allows people to, have a little bit more capital to hire people. For some businesses, it's maybe some of the first money they've ever raised. So it's a very welcome top up to the cost of living kind of stipend that we give you. And for others, maybe who've raised already, it's something that is an option, but maybe they don't necessarily want to take. As I say, it's fully optional. It's available to everyone at the start of the program. And alongside then the investment, there is a substantial perks product and package, I should say, that's worth over $1 million. So, AWS and Google credits, legal support from Cooley, banking support from SVB, lots and lots more besides. So huge ways for you to kind of get discounts on the products and services that you use on an ongoing basis. So when you're thinking about applying, the things that we look for in companies are basically these six things in this order. So it's team, 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 market, traction, idea, progress, and idea. So the team is really the atomic unit that we're investing in, right? The founder market fit, the passion that the founding team have for the product that they're building or the problem that they're solving. What's the unfair advantage maybe that company has. And it doesn't always have to be deep industry expertise. It can naturally just be your genuine passion for what you're solving. Is this a team that feels like it's resilient? Does it feel like a team that has a good balance between being able to think of ideas and then being able to execute on them? Those are all things that are incredibly important, and for one reason that I'll touch on in a moment. Obviously we want to invest in companies that have a substantial market opportunity, and that may be companies that are going into crowded markets. It may be companies that are going into smaller niche markets with a plan for how they can grow them. They may be companies that are looking at a very specific niche in a massive market as a way of driving a wedge into it. So I think you've got to be able to articulate kind of what's your approach to the market that you're going after, and either, how are you going to make it bigger? How are you going to get access to a bigger market? How are you going to challenge some incumbents? Number five, in terms of progress and traction, I tend to think of as momentum. So it's not necessarily that you have to have, thousands of pounds in revenue or hundreds of thousands of users or downloads if you're a consumer product, but it has to feel like something is moving on an ongoing basis. And it's really important to keep us updated about that, which I'll touch on in a couple of minutes' time. But it needs to feel like the company is already accelerating, because then if we can get on board, introduce you to this network that we have, and support you with capital and connections, we can help you accelerate even faster. So it's important to feel like there is some progress, whether it just be, initial user discovery conversations, customer love from some of your beta testers, right the way through to revenue. And maybe counterintuitively, the least important thing for us is the idea. So many companies, and sometimes 30% of the companies going through the program end up pivoting to do something either slightly or massively different to what they started the program doing. And so, that comes back to why we back the team. We want to make sure that we're backing great people, so that if they decide to do something that's slightly or radically different to the idea they pitched us with, we're still comfortable with the fact that this is a great founding team or a great founder. We've invested in solo founders on many occasions before, but we want to feel comfortable that, we're backing them in whatever kind of idea it is that they choose to go after. So just two important points to get over there. Like, we do want to see some early momentum or some validation of a core assumption. If you were building a deep tech company, of course, we're not necessarily expecting to see revenue or POCs or LOIs or anything else signed, but I think there has to be some validation, whether it be academic or whether it be initial conversations. It just has to feel like there is some kind of business rationale there. And then, as I said before, we are stage and sector agnostic. So we have had everything from, really smart people who have an idea about a business that they might want to start, right the way through to a company called 42 Maru from Korea, who did the program 2 years ago. They had already raised capital. They already had over 30 people, and 6-7 figure revenues in the Korean market when they came over and really looked at Techstars London as a opportunity to expand into the UK and European markets. So everything from kind of idea to probably just pre-Series A, even some Series A companies. The application process is pretty straightforward. So we're starting with a lot of these webinars. We're doing some office hours with companies. There is a pretty simple application form, the link to which I'll share at the end of this presentation. So you fill in the application on F6S. We then go through those. We start, and right now we're starting to interview companies who've gotten their applications in early. So for anyone who's listening and thinking, should I apply early? It certainly allows us to start the interaction a little bit sooner. We'll then be doing interviews. So the applications close on May 10th. We'll be doing interviews throughout late April and May, with a goal to then making offers to companies in June. And then the program starts in September. So just to give you kind of the dates, the important one is May 10th, which is when the applications close. Program starts late August. slash early September, and then we have our demo day and program finishing in early December. So definitely get your applications in soon, and we will start reviewing them pretty quickly. Some tips just before I close. So look, some things that really help is momentum, right? So feeling like we're getting on board with a company where things are already going really well. I think completing things succinctly, we will see a lot of applications if you can show us that you have structured way of thinking about things, a structured way of being able to present your business and what you're working on, then that will go a long way. Have a think about why Techstars. What is it about us and our network and our people that will be able to help your business, and specifically also kind of what is it about Techstars London that might be of interest. Um, love companies that are interested in expanding into the London market, love companies that kind of look at, some of the potential partners that I mentioned before and see them as a rationale for coming to London. So I think have a think about, what is the reason for doing A, Techstars, and B, Techstars London. Again, lots of information and blog posts and other things that I've written and shared online, where you can find out more about sectors I'm interested in or things that get me really excited about founders. I think it's important to get your personality and your passion across, and that's one of the reasons we ask you to make a video. So I think make that really clear to us. Your vision for where you want this company to go is also very important. I meet a lot of companies that can tell me where they're going to be in 10 years, but they can't tell me where they're going to be in 10 days. Similarly, I meet a lot of companies that can see exactly what they're going to do over the next 6 months, but maybe don't know what's going to happen in 2 or 3 or 4 years time. So I think you've got to be able to have a bit of a balancing act of what you need to execute on now, maybe what's the little niche or the wedge that you're building into the market now, but then what is that bigger vision that sits at the end of it. One other thing that's really important is when you submit your application on F6S, you cannot edit the actual application itself anymore, but you can add updates to it. So you can go back in and add an update on an ongoing basis, and we've had lots and lots of companies that have added weekly updates during the application process, and that has been hugely beneficial, and hugely kind of interesting for us to be able to track that momentum over time. As I say, being able to see, oh, this week we had 50 customer conversations and we built, a slightly new feature into the product based on what people told us last week, or oh, we onboarded 10 new customers and increased our kind of monthly revenue by £500. All of these things are just valuable data points for us to have. So make sure you're keeping us updated on how things are going, and also be aware that as we go through the selection process, there will be other colleagues and investors who we will ask to support us, and they will also be able to see your application and your updates. And so, just think about it in the context of, people who maybe don't know anything about you being able to see kind of weekly momentum is something that's very, 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 very powerful. And that's it for this webinar. I mean, what I would say to people is I'm pretty easy to find on Twitter and LinkedIn and other places. Feel free to reach out if I can help with anything, or if you've got any questions. You can go to techstars.com and find information about the London program. You can find techstars.com/accelerators. You can see all of the programs that are open for applications at the moment. And if you're interested in learning more, let me know, and hopefully I will see you at Techstars London in 2020. Best of luck with your application, and thanks very much for tuning in and paying attention.